Sign over full control of your assets to your sister, or we call the police right now and tell them you are harassing us." My mother didn't stutter. She slid a crumpled stack of papers across the desk. My father stared at the floor, refusing to meet my eyes, and at the head of the table, my younger sister, Brittany, smiled like she had already won the lottery. They were not here to visit. They were here to execute a hostile takeover of my life. I looked down at the document. It was a power of attorney form, downloaded from some free legal website, demanding I surrender my role as the executor of our family trust. The ultimatum was clear: sign, or they would destroy the reputation I had spent 5 years building at this law firm. Before I tell you exactly what I wrote on the new document I handed them, and the tiny clause they did not bother to read, drop a comment telling me, what is the one thing you have done for your family that they have never said thank you for? I am reading every single one. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I looked at the 3 people who were supposed to be my safety net, and I felt something inside me turn to ice. I reached for the papers, my hand trembling just enough to sell the performance. "This template is garbage," I whispered, letting my voice crack. "If you want this to be legal, it has to be done on firm letterhead. It has to be filed correctly." Brittany scoffed and told me to fix it right then and there. I opened my laptop. I did not type a resignation. I drafted a new power of attorney. I made it thick, dense, and terrifyingly official. 40 pages of standard asset management protocol. And buried deep on page 14, I inserted clause 14b. I printed the stack and placed a bright yellow summary cover sheet on top. In large, friendly font, the cover sheet read, "Full control of assets. Right to sell. Right to transfer." I slid the stack toward Brittany. She didn't open the packet. She didn't flip the pages. She just looked at that cover sheet, saw exactly what she wanted to see, and grabbed the pen. There is a specific kind of blindness that comes with greed. It is a psychological black box. When people are desperate for a win, they stop looking at the mechanics of the deal. They do not see the cage closing around them. They only see the bait. Brittany saw the words "full control" and her brain shut down. She didn't care about the fine print. She only cared about the signature line. She signed with a flourish, pressing hard enough to tear the paper. My parents signed as witnesses, glaring at me the whole time. They thought they had broken me. They thought they were walking out with the keys to the kingdom. They didn't know I had just handed them a hand grenade with the pin already pulled. The Seattle rain hammered against my windshield, matching the rhythm of the adrenaline finally fading from my blood. I gripped the steering wheel, watching the wipers slice back and forth, and let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for 10 years. In the rearview mirror, my law firm's office tower was just a glowing smudge against the gray sky. My parents were probably still in there, hugging Brittany, celebrating their victory. They were probably telling her how proud they were that she had finally stood up to the bully. That is what they called me. The bully. The control freak. The cold one. They have convenient memories. They conveniently forget that the bully is the only reason they have a roof over their heads to sell. I am not the villain of this story. I am the architect of their stability. 6 years ago, my father had a heart attack that forced him into early retirement. My mother has never worked a day in her life. They were staring down a foreclosure on the family home, a prime piece of real estate worth $650,000. They didn't have the cash. They didn't have the credit. Brittany was 20 at the time. She suggested they sell the house and invest the equity in her influencer management agency. That agency ended 6 months later with 3 lawsuits and a quiet settlement I had to negotiate. I didn't offer magic beans. I offered labor. I moved into a studio apartment the size of a shoebox. I worked double shifts as a paralegal, taking on the estate cases nobody else wanted because they were too messy. I ate ramen. I skipped vacations. And every single month, for 5 years, I sent a check that covered their mortgage principal. I paid off that house. I built their retirement fund from $0 to $300,000. Dollar by painful dollar. I built the financial floor they stand on. And today, they looked me in the eye and told me I was stealing from them. They called me controlling because I wouldn't let Brittany treat their life savings like a slot machine. Brittany doesn't invest. She gambles. She calls it day trading or crypto speculation. But the math is always the same. The money leaves and it never comes back. They see her loud, empty promises as love. They see my silent, hard-earned results as oppression. They wanted me out. They wanted the keys to the castle. So, I gave them the keys. I just changed the locks first. That stack of papers Brittany signed wasn't a surrender. It was a cage. Clause 14b didn't just grant her power. It restricted it. By signing that specific version of the document, she legally registered the power of attorney as limited. And buried in the banking protocols I referenced was a requirement for dual authorization. It means Brittany can look at the money, She can print statements. She can feel like a queen. But the second she tries to transfer more than $5,000 out of those accounts, the bank's security system will slam shut. It will require a second digital signature to approve the transaction. And the only person holding the digital key for that second signature is me. I didn't hand my sister a blank check. I handed her a test. If she is the responsible steward she claims to be, she will never trigger that alarm. She will leave the retirement money alone. But I know my sister. I know the desperate, hungry look in her eyes when she thinks no one is watching. I merged onto the highway, the city lights blurring past me. I wasn't driving away in defeat. I was driving away to wait. I gave them exactly what they asked for. And that is the most dangerous thing I could have possibly done. For 3 weeks, my phone didn't ring. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, like the air pressure drop before a tornado touches down. I didn't block their numbers. I simply muted the notifications and watched the show from the digital nosebleed seats. I moved through my life like a ghost. I went to work. I filed briefs. I ate dinner alone in my quiet apartment. But the second screen on my desk at home was always open, tracking the slow-motion train wreck I had engineered. Brittany wasn't quiet. She was broadcasting her victory tour in high definition. I scrolled through her social media stories. There she was, sitting at our parents' dining room table, the same table where I had balanced their checkbook for half a decade. She had swept my files onto the floor and replaced them with a ring light and a tripod. The caption on her latest post made my stomach turn. New era. Taking over the family empire. CEO energy. She was wearing a blazer I knew she couldn't afford. Drinking wine from a bottle I had bought for my father's birthday last year. She looked powerful. She looked in control. She looked like a woman who had successfully bullied her way into a fortune she didn't understand. My parents were complicit in the theater. In the background of one video, I saw my mother serving Brittany tea, looking anxious but hopeful. They truly believed this was the solution. They thought if they just fed the beast enough attention, it would finally become the successful daughter they wanted. Then came the text from my father. It popped up on a Tuesday night, breaking the silence. We are still waiting for your apology. Your sister is doing a great job stepping up. Don't bother coming around until you're ready to admit you were wrong. I didn't reply. I didn't feel the need to defend myself against a delusion. I just archived the message into the evidence folder and switched tabs to the bank portal. I still had view-only access. They hadn't figured out how to revoke it yet. Probably because Brittany was too busy playing business owner to actually read the banking protocols. I watched the numbers. This was the most dangerous part of the trap, the wait. The first charge appeared 2 days after the power transfer. Sephora. $200. I let it go. Next day. Uber Eats. $80. Nordstrom. $400. I let them go. Brittany was testing the fence. She was poking the perimeter, seeing if the electric shock was turned on. Clause 14b only triggered a hard lock on transfers over $5,000. The small stuff? The daily bleed? That was allowed. I watched my parents' liquid cash reserves dip. $600 here. $1,000 there. It was painful to watch the money I had saved for their medical bills turn into designer handbags and sushi dinners, but I had to sit on my hands. If I intervened now, they would just call me controlling again. They would say I was petty, jealous over a few $100s. I needed the crime to be undeniable. I needed the numbers to be big enough to send someone to prison. I needed Brittany to get arrogant. By the end of the 3rd week, the small charges stopped. Brittany had grown bored with the appetizers. She had realized that the debit card worked, that nobody was stopping her, and that our parents were too afraid of rocking the boat to question her spending. She was getting comfortable. She was starting to believe her own hype. I sat in the dark of my living room, the blue light of the monitor reflecting in my eyes. I saw a login attempt from a new device, an iPad. Then a failed attempt to access the long-term savings bond. She was looking for the deep water. She was done skimming off the top. She wanted the main vein. I took a sip of water and leaned back. The confidence was there. The greed was primed. She was ready. I wasn't in the room when it happened. I didn't have cameras inside the house. But I know exactly how it went down because I have the digital forensic logs. I have the timestamps. And I know my sister. Brittany didn't walk in with a gun. She walked in with an iPad and a strategy known in the legal world as fatigue compliance. It is the same technique interrogators use. You don't ask for the confession in the first hour. You wear the subject down with trivialities until their brain stops processing the details and starts looking for the fastest way to make the questions stop. On Monday, she made them sign a new digital contract for their cell phone plan. Tap here, Mom. It saves us $10 a month. On Tuesday, it was the cable bill. Tap here, Dad. It gets us the sports package. On Wednesday, it was updating the medical history forms for their general practitioner. Just scroll and click. Mom. It is just standard procedure. She conditioned them. She trained them like Pavlov's dogs to see a glowing screen, ignore the wall of text, and hunt for the bright yellow next button. She normalized the act of signing their names to things they didn't read. Then came Thursday night. I can picture the scene perfectly. It was raining. The heavy, relentless Seattle drizzle that makes you want to curl up on the sofa and never leave. My parents were tired. They were watching TV, feeling safe in the home they had owned for 30 years. Brittany sat down between them. She didn't look like a predator. She looked like a helpful daughter. "I found a way to lower your property taxes," she probably said, her voice casual. "I just need to update the homestead exemption status. It is an application for a tax relief program." She handed the iPad to my mother. My mother is 65. She needs reading glasses to see the menu at a restaurant. On a backlit Retina display, with the font size set to small, a 30-page legal contract looks like a blur of gray dust. "I can't really see this, honey," Mom would have said, squinting at the screen. "What does this part say?" This was the moment. This was the pivot point. Brittany didn't zoom in. She didn't offer to print it out. She sighed. A sharp, impatient sound that I know triggers my mother's deep-seated fear of being a burden. "Mom, do you trust me or not?" Brittany snapped. "I have been handling everything for 3 weeks. Do you want to save the money, or do you want to argue with me?" Shame is a powerful silencer. My mother didn't want to look stupid. She didn't want to admit she couldn't navigate the technology. She wanted to be the good, supportive mother who trusted her daughter's business acumen. So, she stopped reading. This is the dark genius of modern fraud. It is a user interface trap. The Sign Here button is huge, pulsing, and green. It screams safety, completion, relief. The link to the terms and conditions? It is tiny, gray, and hidden at the bottom of a scroll bar that never ends. The design itself is an accomplice. It pushes you to agree just to get the box off your screen. My mother tapped the green button. Then she passed the iPad to my father. He didn't even look at the screen. He just signed where Brittany pointed. They thought they were saving a few $100s on taxes. They didn't know they had just digitally executed a sale-leaseback agreement with a predatory "we buy homes for cash" conglomerate. They didn't own their home anymore. In the span of 3 seconds and 2 taps of a finger, they had transferred the title of a $650,000 asset for a fraction of its value, agreeing to become tenants in their own living room. The cash Brittany promised was just the sale proceeds she was routing to herself. They went to bed that night thinking they were secure. They didn't know the clock had already started ticking on their eviction. Day 30 arrived on a Tuesday. I was at my desk, reviewing a probate file, when the burner phone in my locked drawer buzzed against the metal. It was the sound I had been waiting for. I unlocked the drawer and checked the screen. There it was, glowing in urgent red text. Transaction alert, wire transfer. Attempt. $50,000 to offshore gaming vendor. Brittany wasn't just skimming anymore. She was trying to drain the liquidity. She was trying to move the emergency medical fund, money I had earmarked for my father's heart medication, into an offshore betting account. She thought she had full access. She thought the full control cover sheet protected her. She had no idea that Clause 14B had flagged her device the moment she logged in. I didn't panic. I didn't call her to scream. I opened the banking security app. The transfer was sitting in a pending dual authorization queue. It just needed one little tap to go through, or one little tap to burn the bridge. I pressed deny and lock. The effect was instantaneous. On her end, the screen would have frozen. The transfer complete message she was expecting would have been replaced by a security violation. Account frozen alert. Her debit cards would stop working. The credit lines would snap shut. I typed a text to the courier service I kept on retainer. Deliver package A to the Henderson residence. Immediate priority. Package A wasn't a Christmas card. It was a formal legal summons on heavy cream-colored bond paper. Compliance audit required. Potential fiduciary breach detected. Immediate presence mandatory at firm offices. They arrived 40 minutes later. I watched them from my office window. My parents looked terrified, clutching the summons like it was a death warrant. Brittany was marching ahead of them, her face twisted into a mask of pure fury. She looked like a cornered animal that had decided to bite its way out. When they stormed into the glass-walled conference room, I was already waiting. I sat at the head of the table, my laptop open, the projector humming quietly. "You hacked me!" Brittany screamed, before the door even closed. She threw her phone onto the table. I tried to buy groceries and my card was declined. "You hacked the accounts." My mother was wringing her hands. "Whitney, please. The bank says the accounts are frozen. We can't access anything. Is this a mistake?" "It is not a mistake," I said, my voice level. "It is a security protocol." "You signed over control!" Brittany shouted, slamming her hand on the table. I have the power of attorney. You can't stop me. Actually, I said. I can. I tapped my laptop and the projector flared to life, magnifying the document Brittany had signed 30 days earlier. I zoomed in on page 14. Clause 14b. Limited Authority Protocol. Any transaction over $5,000 required secondary biometric approval. Without it, all assets froze pending fraud review. The room went dead quiet. I didn't hack you, I said calmly. You signed a lock you didn't understand. And when you tried to wire $50,000 to a Maltese casino, the bank flagged you as a thief. Brittany went pale. You trapped me, she whispered. No, I said. I tested you. You failed. My parents stared at the screen in shock. This wasn't an investment. Brittany had tried to gamble their medical savings. My father collapsed into his chair. My mother reached for my hand, shaking. You knew, she sobbed. You saved us. I closed my laptop. I'm revoking power of attorney, effective immediately. We'll restore safeguards. I thought it was over. Then Brittany laughed. 50,000? She sneered. Keep it. I didn't need it. She tossed a paper onto the table. The wire for 400,000 hit my LLC this morning. My father picked it up, trembling. It was a DocuSign confirmation. Sale leaseback agreement. Status. Completed. You sold the house. I whispered. They sold it. Brittany corrected. Thursday night. Remember that tax update, Mom? You signed the deed. My mother made a broken sound. You're tenants now, Brittany continued coolly. The lease expires in 48 hours. Locksmith comes Thursday. The contract was airtight. She'd liquidated their home for quick cash and routed everything to her own company. You can't freeze that account, she said, standing. I'm leaving. You're homeless, I said quietly to my parents. In 2 days. Brittany smirked. I'm sure Whitney has a couch. She turned for the door. Brittany, I said. She stopped. What? Check your phone. Her face drained instantly. Account frozen. IRS levy. What did you do? She whispered. Read it. She couldn't. So I did. You didn't file taxes for 3 years. I filed IRS form 3949A 2 weeks ago. When that $400,000 landed, the system seized it. The room collapsed into silence. The house was gone. The money was gone. Brittany was finished. Fix it, my mother begged. Get the house back. I can't, I said. You signed it. The seizure is legal. A feed appeared on my screen. A white van pulling into their driveway. A man stepped out with a drill. A one locksmith's. They're changing the locks now. My mother screamed. I packed my laptop and stood. You weren't unlucky, I said. You paid the bill for 20 years of enabling. I walked out. 1 week later, I sat alone in my apartment. Rain streaking the windows. Their numbers were blocked. I felt clean. The key in my hand was small, but heavy. You can't save people addicted to their own destruction. If you've ever watched someone burn their life down, share this story. You're not alone.